Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. Here we are. We got the crew together for another ride on the Nextlander merry-go-round. Alex Navarro, welcome back.
Get me off this merry-go-round. It's not merry enough.
No,
I want merriness. I want enchantment. I want delights. Give me all of that.
You got to bring the merriment yourself.
No,
that's right.
Delight me.
Alex is sitting on top of a sad unicorn.
Give me whimsy, you motherfuckers.
Brad Shoemaker, what animal would you be sitting on the merry-go-round?
Does it have to be an animal? Could it be like a race car? Or how about a train? How about a steam engine? Because I thought you were going to say the Nextlander Express.
Oh, there we go. Right into your brain and your heart on the Nextlander Express. We were off for a week. I was off for 2 weeks. And let me tell you, 2 weeks.
Like?
2 weeks
is an amazing thing. We have studied the science. We are experimenting here, rotating our 2 weeks throughout the year. Alex, you had a 2-weeker. I've now had a 2-weeker. Let me tell you, Brad Shoemaker. I'm trying to rhyme 2-weeker with Shoemaker, but it's not going to work.
No.
This is where the brain goes after you've been off for 2 weeks. So my first week off, I was just as I was able to start kind of unwinding a bit from work, and getting all the things done you don't get before you finish work. I then had a whole week, which is the amazing. Usually you're coming back to work during our week off or taking a week. You come back to work just as you're disengaging from work, and then I had that whole week, and I was very, very busy these 2 weeks. I moved stuff out of my basement into my garage. I'm actually recording this in my garage right now, so I was extremely busy, but I did not feel that rush, that like, oh my gosh, I've got to get all this done. What am I doing? I'm watching the days tick by as you're kind of waiting for your free time to get gobbled up again. So yes, it was awesome. Thank you guys for hosting a bunch of amazing shows, and thanks to all the guests that came by. It was
it went well,
awesome.
I think.
Yeah.
We actually don't need you. If you want to just skedaddle, we're good. Thank you.
Fantastic. I am going to take another week here because I have some unfinished business to do. I'm just going to sit and monitor sites that are selling the PSVR 2 adapter and just refresh those constantly. So,
wasn't there something else you heard? Now that you have the stock tracker, you're like finding other things to start tracking.
What was
we were talking about something else yesterday.
Yeah. So on the Ramblecast, if you want to listen to that, I go into more about what happened, what we did during our weeks off, or my 2 weeks. But I did set up a thing. I've joined the dark side of setting up an automated thing that can check if something is in stock, a bot, if you will. Though I don't like to use that word, but it's probably the truest thing to use. That checks I think I have it set to every 3 hours to try and bang on the. I know. Wait, you think that's a lot or that's too little?
No, that's not enough.
That's not enough.
So say at least every hour.
So it's funny because the thing I use has a bit of jitter. You can work into it so that it's not hitting the exact same time, so that hopefully you don't get your IP address banned. But I thought, look, I'm not here to bang on anybody's door. I just want to know if this thing comes into stock, can I get it? So I'm looking at the PlayStation site and Best Buy is what I'm tracking for those, trying to get in-stock notifications for those, and then Ubiquity stuff. Because
that was it.
Ubiquity stuff is just, they're monsters, and they, for some reason, I don't know why their stuff is so hard to get. You make a product, it's a networking product. Nobody's collecting Ubiquity stuff. This isn't Signature Series routers. This isn't like, a Flame Series. It's just ears on a router. I don't know why.
Small batch prosumer network gear.
Is that? But are they? They're pretty big.
How bad do you want to rack that switch?
I mean, pretty badly. Like right now, it's sitting on top of one of them is sitting on top of another device in my rack in my room downstairs, and the other one's just sitting here on my desk like a loser.
Damn.
I've got an empty spot here waiting for it.
Look,
shit, man.
As somebody who's about to order a piece of rack mount gear and does not own a rack, I'm about to be in that exact position.
I mean, look, you could probably take the ears off. It looks a little cooler when you take the mounting ears off. Yeah, so
this is audio gear for.
I'm excited.
Every single thing in the audio world is made for a rack, apparently.
Well, no, that Motu is small enough.
Right.
Yeah, those little DACs are like they want to sit on a desk or something. But I've gotten rid of stuff on the desk in the move. My speakers are no longer on the desk because my speakers are broken.
That's a good reason.
Yep. So I just took them off the desk. A couple of charging things and some other doodads are off the desk. I cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah,
so
you got to embrace tidy desk life.
Tidy desk life.
I will never.
Cable management and stuff like that. Now it's just
cable management.
I know.
How about cable eradication?
Cable eradication. Let's do it.
That's where I'm at.
Cable abatement.
I finally went and got all wireless input devices. And anything with a cable sits on the back of the desk where I can't see the cable.
So what do you do for charging your devices then?
I've got a wireless charger for the phone. Charging stand.
But like your keyboard. Let's say your keyboard. If you use a wireless.
I debase myself occasionally and run a cable across the desk. But the mouse only has to get charged every two weeks. The keyboard is like once a month ish.
Okay, and so you find, you're a pro gamer. You're someone who came up in the StarCraft era and world. You're okay with this wireless mouse life?
Oh yeah.
Okay. You don't find any kind of interference, jitters, or dropout?
Oh, okay. Bluetooth may be a little sketchy.
Okay.
But anything with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle is just fine.
My dongle, look, I don't know what kind of life you're living, but my dongle is only 2.4 gigahertz on a good day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's got to measure from the base of the dongle. Anyway, let's move on to talking about that PSVR 2.
Speaking of dongles.
Speaking of giant dongles, boondongles?
Not being able to get it up.
The PlayStation VR 2, we talked about it for, I want to say we've been bringing this up for an eternity here.
Been the internet's foremost resource on when is the PSVR 2 going to work on a PC.
Starting from it'll never happen to somebody says it'll never happen to the person says now maybe it might happen to we've got signs of life. Something recognized it. Is that what it was? Is that how the historical record goes? There was like a recognition that the device was connected to a PC at some point.
He was able to get an image up on it, and there was some question about how he was getting around the encryption in there. I think
to finally Sony itself just saying we're going to make this thing work on a PC by providing a dongle that you plug into your video card and then plug the plug into your video card in a USB slot. Is that the way it works, Brad?
Yes, sorry, I'm trying to disentangle it as we speak so I can hold it up in front of the camera on this audio-only podcast.
Yes, I am seeing it. It is basically just a small, almost the size of a deck of playing cards, maybe a little wider.
It's a little black box, tiny little
black box, kind of in the vein of other Sony dongle-like devices. And so this allows you, in theory, to use your PlayStation VR 2 headset, which is a PlayStation 5 exclusive headset, or was, now on a PC if you have the proper hardware in your PC, video card, etc.
Yes.
How has that worked out? Well, first of all, let's say, like we kind of thought, this thing is hard to find at launch.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked. I thought, I'm not surprised. I guess I'm not surprised it sold out eventually, but it was within a day everywhere. I
missed it. It came out when I was on vacation. I only saw it 72 hours later and it was immediately sold out. So I'm still looking for it. I still want to get it, but that's not the end of the story, only the beginning of the story. So what's going on with this thing? You've got one, Brad. What's your experience?
It's a pretty short story from here, unfortunately. So it's like you said, it's a little black box. It plugs into USB 3 on your PC. You run a DisplayPort cable from it to your video card, and then it plugs into the wall. It's got a wall plug.
Power. It's powered?
Yes. It's got its own into an electrical outlet power.
Oh, I didn't know that part. Okay.
And then you just plug the headset into the other end of it. It's been a bit janky for me.
Okay.
And at first I was my heart kind of sank the first time I tried to use it because of the problems I was having with tracking and stuff. And then I started looking around online and it was it's kind of everybody is having issues. Maybe not everybody. Maybe that's a little harsh, but I feel like it's become kind of the narrative about this thing that it's got. Start to say it's got issues. Maybe it's very finicky is a better way to put it.
So there's different types of finicky though, right? So some folks are having Bluetooth finicky stuff with the PlayStation VR controllers.
The controllers, I left that out. Yes, you need separate Bluetooth. This thing does not have Bluetooth in it, this box. So you need your own Bluetooth solution to sync the controllers. And so it's funny. I'm not going to pull the manual out here, but the manual just says on the step of like syncing your controllers to the Bluetooth, it literally just says like some Bluetooth adapters will not work. And it kind of stops there. But then I think before it actually got to stores, Sony put out a list on their site of approved Bluetooth adapters.
Which I was able to get, which I bought, but don't have the adapter thing yet. But I think the one I bought still seems to be causing issues for some folks.
So like it's at the point of there is a shared Google spreadsheet going around now of people comparing notes for like, here's the Bluetooth adapter I'm using and the this and that, a video card, like here's the experience I've had with it. So it's very much that like people are building a matrix of which hardware works and which does not. And it sounds like one of those approved adapters even has a fair number of issues.
Yeah, it was the one I got. That's again, I haven't tested it because I don't have the box yet. Was a TP 500 or 5000? It was a TP Link.
Yeah, it was a TP Link of some sort.
And so I bought that in preparation for this, thinking that this thing surely will come back in stock soon. So that's one set of things. That's the Bluetooth side of things. But you were having even video issues, right?
Yeah, it's hard to pin down what exactly is the problem here. I'm having the Bluetooth jittery tracking stuff, but I've also been having some hitching in the actual image, which is just not workable.
No, when you got a headset on, that's like the worst thing you can have.
Yeah, I had to shake off some pretty bad nausea the first time I tried that thing after about 30-45 minutes in there of trying to get it to work. Like the tracking it was just fine except when it wasn't, basically. Like it was like 98% of the time it works just fine, but every so often it would just hitch and not keep up with my head movements, and that's enough to just make your brain break itself in half.
What did it resolve itself, or was it a thing we had to bomb out and come back in?
No, I just bailed eventually. Like at some point, I the dawning realization starts creeping up the back of your neck.
The
back of your head of like, I'm not feeling great right now.
I'm gonna puke.
I should maybe stop.
I can sense the pukies.
So there's a lot going on here, and this is fairly new. And there's, like you said, the community is trying to aggregate data to find out what's going on here. So you've got a PC that's more than capable of running this thing.
Yeah.
Though you have said also, and I don't know if this is related or not, but possibly your Intel chip could be also running into some issues. Right. It's hard to track down all of the technological problems that are happening.
So many like vectors converging here. I was getting a low GPU memory error in Half-Life Alyx, which that can be a telltale sign of these new Intel CPUs going south. But then I saw other people having the same issue in the reset error thread for this thing.
So not non-Intel related?
Yeah, so maybe that could just be an issue with this headset and Half-Life Alyx. It's hard to say. I will say Half-Life Alyx looks incredible in this thing. Man. Despite all the issues with the tracking and stuff, like I was able to get in there long enough to just look around and say like, okay, well, all other problems aside, this, just image quality, like this looks fantastic. I really hope I get to play this game in this headset eventually.
So I guess my hope is, the hardware's out there. Maybe the drivers need a kick in the butt or compatibility with a video card driver or something needs to happen that lines up.
Yes, I really hope they continue working on improving it. And the Bluetooth thing, it may just be a case of like everybody just needs to get the one adapter that turns out to work great. And I also, partially because of the nausea, just have not like gotten back in there a bunch to keep testing it, but I also need to do the dance of just like plugging everything into different USB ports because that also often can fix things, and that's just a lot of testing. Also, another issue I had, so the PSVR 2 has this, but Steam VR, like everything has this, the grid that shows up when it's like, hey, you're getting too close to the edge, you're about to hit a wall, you're getting too close to the edge of your play space.
The holodeck wall.
Yes. The Steam VR version of that grid, the big teal like grid, never went away the entire time I was using it.
Oh.
So tracking stuff aside, I also couldn't figure out how to, like, it always thought I was about to hit a wall even when I
Interesting.
I made the play space big and made sure I was like right in the middle of it, but that giant like all-encompassing grid just never went away.
Interesting.
So even when I was like playing Alyx, like that was also still all around me, which is also not great. Early days. I hope they keep banging on this thing.
Yeah, I do too, and I hope that adapter doesn't become some weird sought after grail of a thing, and that they produce
like a Rock Band MIDI adapter.
This has happened in a longer increments with PlayStation stuff. It was one of the things I was worried about with this, but usually it happens after a while, like a year or two out, where people go back and they're like, oh man, this thing is impossible to find now. So I'm hoping it's early inventory days and maybe, there more of a demand for this than they thought. Doesn't seem like they're selling it in a bundle yet. So that's like kind of an interesting sign. I thought they would launch this thing. Maybe it's a quieter, more stealth release than I was thinking, maybe they just didn't. This was a thing that was asked for. Maybe it's somebody's side project inside of Sony and they're like, look, this is a chance. It's not a big ask to get more PC stuff going and we can sell games on the PC.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not in any way saying this is happening here, but it's funny when you talk to people that work at giant companies like Sony, Microsoft, like companies that have lots of different initiatives. On the outside as a consumer, you might look at a thing and be like, why did they go to the trouble of like designing and producing this thing only to make so few that nobody can get it and then now it's gone? Then when you talk to people on the inside, you realize how many different competing departments there are, like different levels of management, new management, old management, different people have different priorities, like things get killed all the time. Like it's way less of a surprise. And again, I'm not saying that's happening with this thing at all, but like it does make you understand how things like this can just come and go.
There is a demand, Sony.
Yeah, well, I think so.
I want one. I will buy one.
Well, again, like I said, like the image quality looked fantastic. I really hope to get this thing working better because I really want to play Alex with this very nice piece of hardware.
I think it will get there eventually.
Although I
hope so.
If I can just grouse for 2 seconds.
Please do. I'm going to have some grousing later, so go ahead.
The little grip button on the on my right controller, it's got the squeeze button where you just kind of... The thing, it almost sounds like a spring is coming loose or something in there.
Ew.
Because I have not used that thing in months, I will confess. And when I picked it up and started testing this thing and like started pulling that button, it's just like a crunchy spring sound in there, like something in the mechanism is about to come loose. So anyway,
VR. It's not dead yet, and Sony
we'll get there. Don't worry, one day it will be.
It's not dead yet, but also the marquee game that we all are dying to play on this thing came out over 4 years ago.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Look, it's, from what I hear, it's a great game.
Yeah,
and a great use of VR.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a PlayStation VR 2. The PC adapter. Again, I was looking on the PlayStation side of things, and also on the Best Buy seemed to have it. Those were the two places that I was trying to see. I don't know if other places have it popping up. I don't know what fulfillment is like in other places, but if anybody in our Discord knows where I should look, or if what's his name on Twitter,
Wario.
Wario is tracking
our
these.
Good bud Wario,
one of like the 5 people I follow on Twitter. So let's keep an eye out for that. I actually just wind up in peripheral land because I need to stop spending dumb money. I just got my new rudder pedals for the flight sim stuff, and that was another thing that was taking, I think it's like 4 years to come out.
Damn.
For like, yeah, it was one of those things where I'm not even sure these are gonna ever come out, and then finally came out, and I don't know, what is that, an extra desk, a separate desk or something? I don't want to like swap around, but take to the skies.
Mm-hmm.
My kids have been asking, and now they're asking about this racing wheel I have here. That's Sim Life,
They want to start doing that driving.
There's a game I saw since you dropped off that racing wheel. I was like, what I really want to do is I just want to find a game where you just drive in the suburbs or just drive in the city where I could just I don't want to race. I just want to drive. And there's a game called City Driving 2, which I should go check out, which is coming out like in September or October.
I thought you were going to mention that taxi game that's been around for a little while, though I don't think it's actually very good.
Can you use a wheel for it?
You might be able to. I don't know. I haven't tried it out because the reviews weren't great when it first launched, but I liked the idea of just running, driving around like a non-crazy taxi.
I was just about to, is this like a sim version of Crazy Taxi?
Yeah. I think you drive around Barcelona, if I remember correctly.
Like, I just want to practice some driving, like,
yeah.
I was trying to describe it to my wife, saying that it must be hard because the thing that I want to practice with here in New Jersey are people who are not following the rules of driving. I was
assholes.
Yeah, there was somebody who you love to see it. Somebody who had stuck their right turn signal on and left it on in the center lane, and it just was on forever, so you never sure if they're actually going to try and merge over, but then eventually merge into the left-hand lane with their right turn signal on. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff I want happening in my city driving sim. People cutting across 4 lanes of traffic, somebody zooming in and out.
When I was driving my mom around town here, I had to keep reminding her that, like, no, drivers here are actually way worse than in California, because half the time I was driving, I'm not a crazy driver by any stretch, but she was watching other drivers and she was like gripping the side of the seat the whole time.
Bacalar will say that the rate of accidents in New Jersey are lower, and the drivers here are actually much better.
I would say the rate of people driving away from accidents is actually probably higher than more than anything else.
Right. Unreported
doesn't count as an accident if they don't mark it down.
It's true.
or I think I said to him, people never get up to speed enough to actually touch cars because the traffic is so miserable around here. Speaking of traffic, the streets are jammed with people lining up to play Madden. Alex Navarro, how is the football?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, I assume people will play this Madden. I don't know what level of lining up there is going on for this, but I will say right now, you can play it if you were one of those people who lined up months ago or however long ago and pre-ordered it, because they let you play it like 5 days early now if you do that, which is how I have it.
This is like their super. They've been doing this for a while. EA. This is their EA super fan, whatever it is.
And yeah, I can talk about this because I didn't get review code. I just went and bought this damn thing, and I've been playing it for the last few days.
So you played it on Monday. We streamed some of it. What do you think? I can tell you what I think. It looks all right.
I will say that in those initial play bits that we did on the stream, it wasn't too bad. The more I've been playing it, the more I'm convinced their current physics system is completely broken.
Oh, okay.
Because broken, I don't mean like guys are flying off the fucking arena or anything like that, but I'd say every third tackle animation I have seen has resulted in some sort of weird bunching of models that does not look like a thing any human would ever do.
Now, they've set themselves up for this, and you've talked about this before, but their NCAA, their college football offering, is using slightly different divergent tech or different.
They might be running on the same engine, but they are not branched directly off of a Madden sequel, I don't think. I think they took the core engine and then just started building their own thing around that, sort of free of the years of cruft that Madden has built up. And that game is not bug-free by any stretch. But the main thing about it is when you are playing the football and you are watching guys tackle each other, run around, do the things that they do on the field, there is a naturalism to the way those animations play out, the way their physics system is working, and everything is happening that every once in a while you see something bug out crazy, but by and large, everything looks pretty natural and realistic. With Madden, I have not really had that experience. It feels like guys are kind of glitching and bending in weird ways when they are being tackled. There are some catch animations that seem straight up broken. A lot of stuff on the field that just has that Madden jank that, we've gotten in varying levels over the last several years. And I will say they had been trending in a slightly more positive direction the last couple of years, but this one at launch maybe doesn't seem all the way there.
And we saw, aside from some of the animation fidelity and physics, I think the only physics thing I saw that made me laugh was when that ball shot up into the air.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Was pretty funny. But the thing that stood out to me, and this might just be a thing that's inherent in Madden, baked in, was some of the time to football seemed a little long for some of the modes you were going into. And I understand franchise mode, that's part
franchise
of the
mode
appeal,
is always
right?
the longest time to football, yeah.
But even the career, the quote unquote story mode, the career mode seemed like you had a pretty long pretty long setup to play some football.
That's always been the case with the Superstar mode.
Okay.
I mean, and this one is a little less cutscene heavy than some of the more story-driven ones they've done over the years. You still have to go through the combine, you still have to get drafted and do interviews and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to throw this idea of more dynamic narrative happening, especially in the franchise mode, though I think some of that stuff is in the Superstar mode as well. Basically what's happening is you get to a point during the season and you'll have a team meeting about something or other, a star wide receiver calls you up and is like, I want 100 catches this year, and, I also want to run the ball 20 times. So you can consider whether you want to do that or not. And you're doing press conferences and team meetings where people will talk about like, hey, this team's defensive line sucks ass. We should run at them hard and try and, achieve goals that way. And they'll give you ones that start at the beginning of the season, like, do you think your quarterback will throw 25 touchdowns this year? That kind of thing.
And what do you get for achieving those?
Big XP bonuses for the players or the group of players that you are talking about, which helps, advance their careers and make them better players. The problem I have with that stuff is that it seems like sometimes it's just wrong. Like I had one at the beginning of the year where they were like, I'm playing as the Lions in my career mode. And they were talking about Jared Goff getting kind of as an old quarterback, which is very funny because he's exactly 30 years old. But they were like, is he starting to wind down? Is he going to be able to throw a ton of touchdowns this year, keep up this pace? And they're like, yeah, I think he can throw 25 this year. And I got to the end of that at the end of the first season, and they were like, wow, or you know what? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different one because I had two going. One for my running back and one for my quarterback. The one was for the running back was 20 touchdowns in a year, which I hit. And they were like, wow, you made 10 touchdowns in a year. That's great. And it's that's not what I selected.
So you did hit 20?
I hit 20, yeah.
Okay.
So I still got the credit for it, but it's like the dynamic story aspect of it seems like there are bugs in it, and sometimes it does not recognize the thing you actually selected at the beginning of the season.
Like some flag got misplaced somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little stuff like that. The commentary has a lot of that going on this year. I've noticed plenty of instances where they start talking about, like, at the end of a game, the defense has burned all 3 of their timeouts as you're going down the field, and they're like, you get a first down, they're like, well, the defense still has all 3 of their timeouts, so we'll see if they can stop them. And it's like, no, they have the opposite of the thing you just said.
But it's not like you don't get those timeouts back. Their commentary is just
it's just
wrong.
The commentary is just glitchy and doesn't really understand what's happening sometimes.
No, they said it. You get them back.
Yeah.
that's how it works. Okay, well, you've been playing Madden since probably, let's just call it close to
20
Madden.
some odd years. Yeah, at least.
Where do you think this one falls? Like, it doesn't sound like it is a complete a mess, but it doesn't sound like it is on the trend of Madden getting more refined. Where do you think this one falls?
I mean, I like it so far less than I've liked the last two. I think, there's a lot of stuff they could probably patch and fix over time, and I'm sure they will fix at least some of it. But, the one thing I will say is I've not seen the real showstopper nightmare bugs of the last few years. Like, I have not had, the game just straight up break on me. But it's a lot of little things around the edges that just feel unpolished. And I think, at least with the commentary, part of that might be the fact that they have now added multiple commentary teams, which they have not had before. So now, like, when you're in the middle of the season, depending on what game you're playing and who's on, it could be like Mike Tirico and Greg, what's his name, from Fox, or it might be a different commentary team that they have, or another one. Like, because there's tiers of commentary in actual broadcast. There's the people who do the big primetime games, and then there's the people who do like the daytime games that are less seen, and they're kind of emulating that here.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, so you get, like, are they for different stations, or they're for different...
Well,
within a station, they have tiers?
Yeah, every network always has multiple commentary teams that hosts football. Like, and that's true also of every sport. Like, you can't just have the same commentary team doing every game. That doesn't work.
Why not?
Because there's multiple games happening at the same time, Vinny.
Oh, yeah, that does happen, doesn't it? Okay,
also, each team has to do their research for their game the week ahead of time, so that they know what to talk about when they're on the air.
So you're saying that if I were a commentator in the lead up to the thing, I'm poring over my notes for who's the star players and all this stuff.
You've looked into this and you know who the backups are. You know, like, what the storylines for the game are, what the rivalries are, all that kind of stuff.
Do I have to look up, like, what I'm going to banter about, like, between downtime and stuff like that? Like, talk about what's my turducken? Like, what am I going to talk about? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, ultimately, if you have good rapport with your co-commentator, you can probably just pull that stuff out of the air. If you're the sort of person that's a total stiff and does not have much chemistry with the person you're with, you probably have to write a lot of, like, banter down because you're not going to get much.
Did the teams work do the two people work together generally? Like if you're on okay, and that's like, so is it hard to? I assume you want to go to the prime time, right? Is it hard to move up in that because you're like, no, this pair, you guys are great together, and be like, I don't leave this person in the dust. I'm going to prime time, baby.
So it's very funny. For a long time, the big Sunday Night Football combination was Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth. They were like the primetime, commentators for Sunday Night Football. Then Al Michaels kind of got shuffled off because he's very old. And they put him on Thursday Night Football, which was on Amazon all of last year. And it was him and Kirk Herbstreit, who was mostly a college commentator. And that was maybe the single most boring fucking commentation of people I've ever heard in my life, because Al Michaels is tired and does not sanction much in terms of like tomfoolery on the field, and just seems very tired by the time things get through. And Kirk Herbstreit, while a great college commentator, has no real investment in any NFL rivalries. So the way he does color is just to kind of talk about stuff that he thinks is going on, but he doesn't feel like he's in the mix the way that like Collinsworth is. And then Mike Tirico was Collinsworth's like his partner after Al Michaels left. Okay. And there is this seething animosity between the two of them.
Why?
That I feel like I'm not just perceiving myself that is there. I don't think people like Mike Tirico. I get the impression that people find him kind of obnoxious behind the scenes, because every time he would make a joke on air, Chris Collinsworth would just straight up no-sell him in a way that I thought was really funny, but also kind of sad.
Just not acknowledge the joke, like not pity laugh or anything?
It felt like Chris Collinsworth would rather be in the booth with anyone else.
It's so rough. Did you say Amazon had the games?
They had the Thursday night games last year.
Like Amazon Prime? You go to Amazon
you go on the Prime streaming service, and that's where they were airing them.
Wow, what a world we live in. I wasn't ready for that one to drop out of there.
So here's the thing. Thursday Night Football is almost uniformly fucking terrible. And the reason it's fucking terrible is because the teams that have to play on Thursday night have way less prep time. So they are putting games on that generally are not the marquee matchups. And even then, they do not have as much rest as they normally do on a week-to-week basis. So the teams just look gassed half the time.
So they maybe had played on Sunday and then are playing on Thursday, but probably don't play on Sunday again?
No, they definitely don't play. That's their game for that week. So they get a longer rest after the fact.
Yeah.
But nobody likes playing on Thursday night because it is, it's hell on the body.
And it's, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get into all the politics.
No, we should, because this stuff sucks. This is the stuff about the NFL I think fucking sucks.
Is it randomized, or is it actually like, nah, you're not doing great this season, you're playing a Thursday game?
No, it's not. So I think the Thursday night games, if I remember correctly, are mostly planned out ahead of time so that they know what the schedule is.
Okay.
The only thing that is up in the air sometimes is whether, like later in the season, if one of the Sunday games maybe doesn't have a time set. So if they want that game in prime time late in the season because there's a good matchup there's a playoff contention thing happening, they can move that to the prime time slot. But they usually don't move the days. If it is scheduled for a Thursday, it stays on a Thursday.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Man, sports.
I mean, it's a brutal sport is the thing. It is not a game you can just play every day of the week. And they added Thursday Night Football because they wanted a weeknight primetime thing. And the problem is the football almost uniformly fucking sucks when they do it.
Thursday Night Football hasn't been a thing for ages?
For several years. Like, they've been doing it for a number of years, but not forever, no.
Monday Night Football, though, is a thing, right?
Yes. Monday Night Football has been a tradition for many decades now.
Just ask Bocephus.
Yeah.
So there's Sunday, Monday, and Thursday?
There's Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and toward the very end of the season, when they're getting toward playoff time, they will also run some games on Saturday. Once college football is out of the way. Because their season more or less ends before the NFL's does.
So in Madden, in EA Sports Madden NFL 2025,
yes,
or 25, are there Thursday games in your franchise? And if you get a Thursday game where you're like, oh man, I'm not doing well.
They do include Thursday night games. I have not had anyone in the game call attention to it.
Okay.
Though in some of the earlier, like in other recent ones, usually it's like your coach will call you like, hey, we have a short week this week. What do we want to do? Do we want to do half practice? How do we want to manage rest?
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything new for the Madden folks out there that's in this installment? I have no idea.
They put owner mode back into the franchise mode. So if you want to, set concession prices and move your team and stuff like that, I think you can do that. I thought that was in there for a while, but I guess they maybe had not done it in recent years. I never really fuck with that stuff anyway. I like coaching. I don't like being a fucking, billionaire that decides that my team's going to be in Pacoima now.
I would do it. Do it. It'd be real life. You give me the billions. I'll decide if the team's in Pacoima.
I thought it was kind of fun in the earlier Madden games, like a couple of generations ago. These days, I don't know. It's just not really what I want to be doing with my time. Yeah, I mean, they've a lot of the changes seem like they went into the franchise mode and that whatever new physics system they are employing this year, because, boy, some of those fucking on-the-field tackles just do not look good.
New kick meter? Okay.
It feels like we have definitely crossed a Rubicon where now they are just changing things because they have to make a sequel.
Because they need 5 things to change or something?
Like, no one at the EA Madden team right now, at least not in leadership, has the ability to change fundamentally what this game is. So they are just coming up with things to be like, is this realistic enough? No? All right, do something. I don't know.
All right. Well, do football rules change enough nowadays from year to year where the game plays a little differently if you're from 24 to 25?
It's not really. I mean, they do change rules every year. Like this year, I think they're making some changes around onside kicks, but it's mostly just about when you can do it in a game.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's always rule changes, but very few of those rule changes I feel like actually change the fundamental aspect of playing football, especially in a video game.
Just drop back and throw those 80-yard bombs.
Yeah.
That's been my thing since Tecmo Bowl.
It always works 80% of the
time. Never fails.
Yeah.
Well, that's EA Sports Madden NFL 25. It's $70. I don't know if I assume it's more if you got the bigger editions. I'm sure they sell them.
I did that double bundle where I bought the college football game and they let you pre-order Madden, which is a little expensive, but you get both games and you get to play them early. So
cool. And that's available pretty much on everything except the Switch.
I'm going to say if you haven't already bought in, maybe wait to see if they throw a patch out there that makes it a little better.
Okay, especially on some of the physics stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and there is one other grousing thing I want to do very quickly here.
Yes.
I learned today with this year that because I had not played on PS5 in a year or two, I can no longer play EA games on PlayStation. I just can't do it anymore.
Why?
Because apparently at some point my EA account was, when I linked my PlayStation account, it was to an old EA account that used an email address I had about 3 jobs ago. Whiskey Media email.
Oh no.
And I tried to go in and associate it with my current EA account, and they're like, you can do this once in your lifetime. You can never associate this PSN account with anything else ever again. So now every time I sign into either college football or Madden, they make me send a code to my current email address, and I have to sign in every time.
Fun.
Wait, every time? Every time you launch it?
I bet support could probably take care of that if you're willing to jump through the hoops.
I'm not sure if I'm willing to jump through the hoops or if I just never want to play an EA sports game on the PlayStation platform again.
Also an option.
There was just on those fields, there was a lot of, I ran into some stuff, boy, all the mergers and stuff that happened, but BioWare account, an EA account, this other Star Wars thing, like all these things that were like, oh, these are all the same account at this point, and like you have to I think I'm past it now, but merging those and consolidating those and all those acquisitions and then divergences again do cause weird issues down the line.
I don't remember them requiring a sign-in for EA stuff that long ago, and now they do, and I'm like, okay, well, I could just go play this on a different console, I guess.
Yeah, can you just play offline?
Well, so they do a lot of stuff where, like, in the cloud, and so, like, if you are playing franchise mode, for instance, everything simulates a lot faster if you tie it to the online.
Oh, all right.
So I shouldn't have done that, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would say most games with an account, like a developer level account like that, probably are not worth playing without the account active at this point.
Yeah.
Wait, wouldn't you have that problem on every platform, though?
I don't remember if I ever associated my Xbox account with EA stuff.
Oh, I see. So you could make a different one there.
I could potentially just associate it now with the new account.
Time to just make a new PlayStation account. Just get rid of all that other stuff.
Absolutely not.
Throw it in the garbage. And
if I never have to play an EA game on PlayStation, I can live with that. That is a thing I can live with.
We're gonna get you this. We're gonna figure this out. Somebody's gonna help you out.
Hey, EA support. If you listen to this podcast, give me a ring, ding, ding. Let's see if we can sort this out.
We're gonna get you in there before the next Mass Effect comes out, so you can.
Okay, well, we have 7 years at least. So
we're gonna get you nice and tidy. All right, that is EA Sports Madden NFL 25. Again, not to be confused with whatever the other 25 was in the Madden franchise.
That was from 2013, apparently.
Yeah, that is available pretty much on everything. Like I said, out fully released. I think it is. What's the Tuesday we're recording? No, Wednesday we're recording. So out Friday, I think, is the actual release for this thing. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back in just a moment with some more games. Stick around. And we are back, and thank goodness you're here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Governor.
Cole.
I can't even begin to try to goof or do this accent. Whatever this is. It's intense.
Oh, you mean cartoon British?
Is that what it is? I don't even know what it is.
Yes. Because in the grand annals of language, this is very clearly, if you were to look it up in the book, it is under the term silly British.
Is it an actual dialect? Because and when you start, thank goodness you're here, the game we're talking about. It asks you a question in some kind of dialect, and you either answer, I have no idea what you're talking about, or you answer, like, what is it, like, right? Or, like, right on?
I don't know. Here's the thing. Look, what they are doing is it is not a specific dialect of British. They are just doing a lot of weird slang and, rhyming slang and other terms, and then doing it in the most cartoon voice possible.
And if you do choose the one that it says like okay in whatever dialect they are trying to do or whatever they are doing there, your menus get changed into nonsense. I'll just say it, nonsense. So thank goodness you're here. You probably have seen us either look at it in some summer preview event because it was shown there, or I think we played a little bit of it on a grab bag. It is the cartoony adventures of a little man.
A very little man.
Of a tiny man who goes around this ridiculous caricature, I'll call it, not being an English person. Seems like a caricature of an English working class town that has a bunch of problems. All the butchers, the bakers, the candlestick makers are all running into issues, and you go and try to solve them, mostly by hitting a button and hitting things.
Yes.
Can we establish real fast, is this developer British?
I would assume so, yes.
Can we just assume?
Well, the voice actors definitely are, because, I mean, like, Matt Berry's in there, a few other people, and, like, I'm pretty sure the sound studio they contracted for this is all British.
Okay, I have located their website there in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, coming by it honest.
Yes, and then look, this is a realm I will not even feign to know about. So look, if you want to be like, no man, this is for realsy. This is what people in Yorkshire talk like.
They're talking about fucking tuppences and thhruppences all the fucking time. They're always out for a pint.
I don't know what 10 bobs is, or how much that is, or if that's a lot or a little. But it's a fun game. You go and smack people around. All these. First of all, let me say, despite its looks and its character, it's not necessarily a kid's game. There is some lewd stuff in there that he'd be like, oh,
this is a bit bawdy.
a little bit. But it's a fun game that doesn't take too much of your time and definitely doesn't ask too much of you. It's fun. I like the style of it. I like what you're doing in it. If I have one quibble with it, if I may. If I have one quibble with it, it's that you recycle a bit of the environments. You're kind of moving between maybe 3 to 4 different main areas, and you're just cycling through those throughout the course of your, 3-hour run.
Yeah, it's like 3 to 4 hours, I think is what it's quoted as.
So I finished this. My daughter finished this as well, and I didn't see her finish it, but there are definitely some scenes I would have liked to have asked her about, especially the guy with no pants sitting on the toilet eating his beans.
Listen, man, they love fannies over there. They love fannies and bums and all that.
Wait, where do you eat your beans?
I eat them in the bathtub like a normal
of
human
course.
being, like a civilized person. But it's fun and silly. It's and
the thing
has a
I
good
would,
ending.
The thing I would most directly compare it to in terms of like overall style and delivery is jazz punk. Like it is obviously tonally very different, but it's that kind of game where you are just wandering around an environment. You are like in this case, you're just playing slapsies with everything and jumping around on these very light platforming puzzles. And you're really just kind of poking everything to see what kinds of jokes fall out.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to ask. If it ever becomes like a true adventure game as such, or if it's more of a like I get what you mean, like the jazz punk comparison.
Yeah, it's a gag
is
dispenser.
Very illustrative. You're just poking at the world to make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and most of the time you're getting this game kind of lives by its presentation, and the presentation is pretty top notch. The voice acting is great, fun. The music is fun. The setups are pretty dumb and fun. It's really charming. And entertaining all the way through.
Listen, my family is a good portion English, so I feel very confident in saying this has captured the spirit of the British soul.
Okay, well, all right.
This is what it's like over there.
A compliment or an admonishment.
Take it however you want. This is what's happening over there.
But yeah, thank goodness you're here. It's a lot of fun. It's $20. Doesn't ask a lot of your time, but returns gives you back.
It's a very enjoyable few hours. It's a trifle but a delightful one,
and some FNV in there.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, you got a little actual footage in there. Another game that I checked out some of, let's put some time into, World of Goo 2. The World of Goo 2. People have heard of Goo 2. World of Goo, a game that came out ages ago. I don't know, like 15 years ago?
It's been a long time.
8, 9, something like that.
Who knows? Time. But World of Goo 2 is available on the Switch, the Epic Store. I think Epic funded some of it, so I think they say this game would not be made without support from Epic. So, and then also you can buy a DRM-free version from their site if that's how you want to roll on PC. Yeah. So they offer that as well. I played it on the Epic Store. It's $30. It's World of Goo. It's very similar.
One. Yeah,
it's, part Goo, part bridge builder kind of.
Looking at the trailer footage, it definitely just looked like they made more of that, which I'm like, that's totally fine. But also after 15 years, you kind of wonder if like maybe they had some more ideas. I don't know.
Well, have they made anything else in the intervening time? Like, is that studio made other games? Yeah.
Did they make Little Inferno? Wasn't that them?
That sounds right.
Maybe.
I think I could be wrong.
Was Little Inferno wasn't published, but for some reason Panic also popped into my mind for Little Inferno. That was not published by them, right?
I am totally wrong. That was not them.
Okay. That's the one where you throw the trash into the little trash compactor and burn it up, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. They do have new puzzles and new ideas in here. The goo world is changed, but your core gooing has seems to, at least in the early stuff that I played, the first world through seems to remain the same, and that's fine. I like it. It's very bare bones in that there are no options for this game other than full screen or not full screen. No controller support, on the PC, on the Switch, because when I was looking up, I didn't controller support here, because now that my computer and stuff is in the garage, I was like, I'll just play this over the Steam Link. No, it is mouse only, mouse and keyboard only on the PC. On the Switch, they patched in Pro controller support. It didn't have that, I guess, at launch, and it sounds like that got patched in. But I really like it. I don't know.
It took me a second to wrap my head around that. That's bizarre. I've never heard of a game shipping without Pro controller support before.
Look, maybe I could be misunderstanding it, because mostly I was looking to see if there is controller support on the PC version, and that's all that came up when I looked for controller support for World of Goo 2 was like added Pro control support for World of Goo.
Yeah, you're right.
And so I don't know what the controls are like, because the game is really you clicking on a ball of goo, stretching it or moving it to a space and letting go. That's really what the controls kind of boil down to, and various balls of goo or balloons or whatever you're doing. But it's a lot of fun. It's $30 if you want to go buy it. If you are a fan of World of Goo, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Also, the soundtrack is great. Great soundtrack, great music so far. A lot of fun. Not really too much more to describe. You're basically trying to get a structure of goo, and this is where the bridge building part comes. There are little nodes. Each little ball of goo is a node, let's say. And when you place it, it has to touch two other nodes of goo. And then you're building kind of this lattice work of goo to reach your objective, which is usually this suction hose. And it topples and it sways and it weebles and it wobbles until you get to the top there. There is an undo feature in the game. By clicking on these little dragonfly bugs, you get to undo, which is nice because sometimes your thing topples over. You're like, damn it. There are challenges for each level. There are how many balls of goo you've sucked up at the end, because every time you use a ball of goo, it becomes cemented in the lattice work and it doesn't get sucked up. It becomes part of the structure and you cannot suck it up. So how many balls of goo you have left over by the end, the time it took you to get there, and how many moves it took. I have yet to hit one challenge. I am either I was very close on one, and even though when I think I've killed it on a level, I still have not hit the challenge.
Okay.
So going back, I got to get my goo legs.
Tell me about your goo. What are you going to do with your goo?
I'm gonna make it better. I'm gonna make my goo better. Make it goo better. So World of Goo 2, again, out now. Came out earlier this month, $30. PC, either from their site or the Epic Store or on the Nintendo Switch. Don't know anything about the Switch other than what I saw when I Googled controller support.
Hey, when was the last time you booted up your Switch?
It's the last time I booted up my Switch. Not during the 2 weeks. I didn't boot it up.
Yeah.
I don't think I've turned mine on in 2 months.
I was playing Lorelei and the Laser Eyes on it, but that was just because I was going on a trip. I could have just as easily played that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers gets played in this house, not by me all the time, but it gets played. Trying to think, was there anything else?
They got games coming. I'll definitely play that new Zelda.
Yeah, of course. And that was it the guy with the bag on his head? Emio?
Yes, the Smiling Man.
The Smiling Man. True Detective, whatever it is, the detective series.
Famicom Detective Club.
World of Goo.
Yes. They're making a True Detective game for the Switch.
Only on the Switch. Who would have guessed?
First party.
A game that is also on the Switch, but I wound up playing it not on the Switch, but this I'm using as my segue. I'm going to latch onto it. Arranger, a role puzzling adventure. This is ARRANGER, not a ranger. This is arranging, like arranging.
All one
things.
word.
All one word. I finished that. That game's really good.
How does it wrap up? That's still on my list to play.
I think it keeps things fresh enough for the time you're in it to keep you not wear out its welcome in the mechanic. So I found it to be pretty engaging all the way through. I think the writing's pretty done pretty well. Maybe a little corny here and there, but your mileage may vary for your tolerance for that stuff. But in terms of the mechanics, I think they keep it pretty fresh and
that's
fun.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
How long would you say?
How long would I say? Not terribly long. I could hazard a guess here. I played it over a bunch of installments, so I don't remember what some of the gaming chunks were like, but I don't know, 7 hours, and maybe that's. I'm totally throwing that out there. I really don't.
It's a rough guess.
It's a really rough guess because again, I played it over like a couple of sittings, so I'm not exactly sure. Just kind of throwing that out there.
Okay, how long to beat? It says 6 hours. I was just curious because we talked about it before. Like it's Zelda-ish a bit, so it kind of makes you wonder. It's a little bit.
A little bit.
Kind of makes you wonder, like, how sprawling of an adventure is this? But it sounds like with tight and to the point is probably the right vibe for that game.
You probably don't want it to go on too much longer. You wind up in the arranging puzzles where you're doing a lot of head scratching because of the way the puzzles work. It just kind of escalates on that theme of like, oh my gosh, how do I get this thing in the right position to fulfill the puzzle requirements? But I really like it. It's possible this might make a top 10 list for me. Like this is a really fun, tight game that delivers on its core premise. Arranger,
I could see that.
A role puzzling adventure. Done. A game I wound up just like it would be like 10 o'clock at night, and I'd be sitting there and I'd be wondering what to do. I'm not going to go move stuff around in the basement or do anything. I'd sit down and I'd open up Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn.
Okay.
Not what I thought I would. If you asked me what I would be playing during the break,
after we talked about it on here the last time, I was like, I bet he's never going to play that again.
Yeah, that was a strong possibility. There's something just kind of real bite-sized about the whole thing, where you just pick it up, do some stuff, and put it back down. That I don't know, kind of appealed to me. Just kind of do a little bit of Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, and be done with it, get some power-ups. I don't know how much more I'm going to play with it, but I kind of enjoyed it. Like it's very, we talked about this before, it's like very B-tier game, and not in a bad way.
There's room for that.
There should be room for that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, there's nothing to write home. I don't really know what to say about it. There's nothing to write home about. It's a game where it's I think, probably, what was it? A Souls adjacent, Souls Light. I don't know. It's kind of actiony. My problem with it is it never really quite feels like it knows what it wants to be. It's a little caught in the middle. Mm-hmm. Do you want fast action, or do you want deliberate animation priority action like a Souls game? And sometimes I feel like it gets caught in between, where it wants you to do some kind of encouraging you to do some quick actiony, almost Devil May Cry like action, but then there's no canceling out of attacks or stuff like that that you want, so you're getting swiped. That stuff can be a little frustrating, but I did enjoy. It's like it's, you got this handgun and this weapon, and you get a couple of other sniper rifles and things like that, and your magic, and the tree is fairly limited in its upgrade, in its scope. My biggest complaint about it is I think the game, and apologies if it's my setup, but it sounds like it's mixed terribly. All the voices are completely muffled, like they are coming out of the rear speakers, except for like one or two characters when I'm engaging with them, in a way that on my setup, I have a soundbar and 2 rear surround. On my setup, it sounds like most of the stuff is so muffled. I usually play with subtitles on anyway, but I have to just read what they're saying.
I swear to God, man, does somebody want to run for office on the platform of regulating audio mixing?
Yeah,
at this point, they would have my vote.
I don't know how enforceable it is, but I'd like them to try.
It seems like it's such a problem everywhere these days.
I really don't know what happened here in this mix or what's going on. I'm playing on the Game Pass Xbox version. I did do a quick search to be like, dude, is this me? What is going on here? And it did seem like a lot of people are like doing the same thing. Like, dude, is this me? What's going on here? So maybe I'm not alone there. But aside from that, pretty average game. I'm going to give it a 2.5 to a 3. I'm going to give it a 3 for what I played of it so far. All right. Yeah, that's Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. I don't think I'm anywhere near finishing it, but I have put a decent amount of time into it on the Xbox. Okay, that's World of Goo. Thank goodness you're here. Flintlock, Rangers, EA Sports, the PSVR 2 PC adapter, which leaves us with only one more thing to talk about here. Balatro?
Uh-huh. I too, coming off of a Ranger, I too am all about some bite-sized games right now. I don't know how bite-sized a Ranger is. I mean, I've played 30, 45 minutes of it. Like, it's a bit more contiguous, let's say. But, like, there's a lot of stuff in that vein right now. Like, SteamWorld Heist 2 I need to get to. Like, that's very, like, play a mission, put it down. We don't need to get into it right now. I am most of the way through Kunitsugami, judging by the kind of world map. I think I'm pretty close to the end of that. That's also a, like, play a mission or two and come back to it later. There were, like, 3 other games I wanted to play on this break, including some of the ones I just mentioned. Instead, I fell back down the fucking Balatro hole hard.
It'll get you, man.
To the point that every time I sat down to play a video game, I just found myself launching Balatro again, which I hadn't played in, like, 2 or 3 months. I finally beat a run.
Oh, fantastic. So what you mentioned that off camera. What does that mean? What is a run?
Just in terms of the mechanics, you mean?
Yeah,
it's just getting to the end. Just getting to the end of Ante 8. So every ante is 2 regular stages and a boss.
Okay.
And then basically just getting to the end of all 8 antes.
So does that mean, like, for you getting to Ante 8, does it now open up another tier or something? Like,
gosh,
yes,
I mean,
new difficulty.
Alex can also speak to this, but there's a ton of unlocks because there's different decks. Have you played it, Vinny? I can't remember. I played
a little bit of it, but I probably not since launch, and I only played a little bit.
Alex, maybe you know, there's something like probably at least a dozen playable decks in there from the looks of things.
It's closer to 20, I think.
Yeah. You probably only get like 3-4 decks to start with, but it's the kind of thing where it's like every one of those decks you beat it with, you unlock another deck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then if you beat it on a higher difficulty with one of those original decks, you unlock yet another deck. Like, and each deck has different starting rules, so they kind of change your playstyle quite a bit. Not to mention the bajillion different things you can do per run to kind of customize a build or a playstyle. So there's a ton of like sort of leapfrogging progression, I guess I would say, because you're also unlocking like you'll get a new Joker for doing things like, oh, you sold 10 Jokers in a run or something, like stuff you don't even really know is there, unless do they tell you how to do any of that stuff?
Some of them are telegraphed, some of them are not. Like, you know, there's a bunch of things that, like, when you load up the menu, there's like a lock in the middle.
Right.
And that lock is sometimes replaced by a card when you meet a certain objective. So, like, one of the ones I did was, like, you just have to buy the blank ticket, like, 10 times.
Sure.
And that unlocks another thing.
Okay.
You know, again, it's all stuff that, you know, you'll just find by just doing things a bunch. Like, I've discovered tons of Jokers and tons of other things just by doing things accidentally.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. My card on the title screen is just an ace now. It's like an ace of spades or clubs. I can't remember. I don't know if it's subtly trying to tell me to do something or not. Anyway, I mean, we've talked about that game a bunch. Like, I don't know if we need to relitigate the whole thing. I beat it on the extra. Does everybody beat it on the blue deck first, the extra hand deck? Because that seems like the very obvious, easiest one to beat it with.
Mine was the green deck. That was the one I had the easiest time with. That's the one that gives you extra money.
Oh, okay. Or is it the yellow one?
Or maybe it was the yellow. It's the one that lets you basically have more money so that you can, you know, basically you can have more. You can buy more power ups in the store.
Right. I think the yellow one starts with $10 in the bank.
You know what? I'm just going to boot up Balatro right now and see which one I've actually beaten it with.
Oh, boy.
Because here's the thing. I have completed all the difficulties on one deck.
Really?
Yes. And then I'm very close to doing that with a second deck.
It's so satisfying, though. Like, I mean, a lot of it is so contingent on the stuff you're going to find on your run, because it is a roguelike, you know, and it's like, hey, which Jokers am I going to have access to? Like, I can't... There's only so much you can control per run. A lot of it is luck there, but on my winning run... Like, at a certain point, you do feel like you're crafting just like this, like, assembly line of Jokers to just make numbers go insane at every step.
I have seen some people who have straight up broken the math in the game to the point where it is adding, like, square roots to the numbers that you are getting.
Like, when I realized they were dealing in decimal multipliers, it started getting really interesting. And, like, the real thing, you tell me, but it really seems like to win a run, really, you just need multipliers of multipliers.
Yes, you need to find ways to, like basically the duplicate ability one is almost one of the most necessary Jokers to have, because if you can double your biggest multiplier card, then you're pretty good. So
that's effectively the build I had going at the end of my winning run. Is you early on you're going to be like doing linear additions to your multiplier. It's like, oh, they give plus 15 to your multiplier, but that stops scaling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But my winning run, I had. And I think we've talked about this, you know, you can manually move the Jokers around to customize the order that it does the math.
Right.
So I basically had two different Jokers at the end of my hand that were each more or less doubling the multiplier prior. So like,
got it.
I would stack up like 5 different additions to the multiplier and then double that and then double it again. To the point that I actually just kind of like destroyed the last boss, surprisingly, pretty quickly in like 3 hands.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's how that goes, right? You find your tweaker.
Yes,
business.
but also like, oh man, my girlfriend was sitting there while I was playing it. She had no idea. She was on her iPad or whatever. I was like, I'm not going to say a word. When I got to Andy 8, I was just like, I am not going to jinx this. I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to let on that anything is unusual here. But I had like butterflies in my stomach. I was like sweating. I was like, okay, I've only made it to Annie 8 like 3 times ever, and this is my best build by far. Like, something's going to go wrong here, right? And then you get to the last boss, and each boss blind has like unique abilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all like fairly straightforward. You know, it's like, oh, all heart cards are debuffed. Trying to think what else. I mean, Alex, you know what I'm talking about.
There's the one. Well, yeah. I mean, the basic ones are like, pretty similar. Yeah, like it's all debuffs or discard 2 cards at the end of each submission. You have to play 5 cards per hand for it to score. You can only play one kind of hand this entire round. But the last ones are brutal.
But yes, when I got to that last boss, my heart sank because I pulled the one that was I like super high score, I think is how they describe it.
Yeah, the highest blind you can get.
Yeah, it was just like the point goal was 300,000 is the point.
Yeah.
Like, and previous point goals were like 50.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think 100K is kind of the standard last boss point goal.
Roughly.
Somehow I can't remember what mechanic it was, but it might have been a consumable card, or maybe you can just do the blind skip on the last boss to replace the boss with a different one. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that.
Yeah, there's a re-roll the boss blind option.
Oh, was that a tag? I think that might have been a tag from skipping a previous blind. I know this is a lot of terminology. Anyway, I was like, okay, even with this amazing deck, I don't know if I can hit 300K. I'm going to replace this boss blind, and then it came up with one that was like, all cards are debuffed until you sell a Joker.
Yeah.
So I had to go in there. It dropped the point goal to 100,000, which was totally attainable. But then literally you can't score. You cannot play a hand that earns any points unless you sell one of your Jokers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thankfully I was able to peel off a Joker that was not absolutely critical, although it did make things harder.
So to answer your question, it was the green deck, which is the one that gives you $2 per remaining hand, $1 per remaining discard, but you don't earn interest.
Yes. Right. Okay.
So I totally house that one, and I'm very close to housing the checkered deck, which is the one that is all spades and all hearts to start.
What?
Yeah.
Wild.
That's a very flush-focused run I've been doing. So,
and the last thing I'll say about my winning run was I did. It was one of the standard decks that only gives you 5 Joker slots, but I did find that I was up to 7 Joker slots by the end, and I very much needed all of those.
Yeah, once you start getting those negative Jokers, it's actually really helpful.
That was the thing. It made me realize, like, oh, you really need to be trying to prioritize getting more Jokers than you're supposed to have.
Yeah. You got to break the game. They want you to break the game.
Yes, that game is so good.
So in other follow-up Balatro news, wasn't there something recently where he said he will never charge for additional content?
Multiple things. It was, I think he tweeted, he's literally put in his like will. Like he literally has had it like legally defined in whatever will or testament he leaves behind, that the Balatro IP can never be used to enable real-world gambling.
That rules.
Probably still smarting from that misclassification earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They got him pulled off of Switch and stuff.
Well, and on top of that, he has made so much fucking money off this game as it is, and I have to imagine he wants to keep that goodwill as long as humanly possible, which I totally get.
Yeah, for sure. So they just passed 2 million copies sold, he announced. But then the recent thing was he said the first DLC is coming next year, and it's going to be free.
Okay.
Like that sounds like that's going to be like a named add-on. He also said there's like a couple of small surprises coming this year, but he didn't go into any detail there.
Hell of a game, huh?
Yeah, it's great.
I think it's the one, man.
It's great, but also, like I said, I had like 3 other games I was intending to start, and just every time I sat down, I was like, man, I could learn a whole new game here, or I could just sink back into this morass and just keep going.
Welcome to my world, dude.
Comfort games.
Yeah.
Yes. But I am pretty close to finishing Kunitsugami also.
My plan was my comfort game was going to be finish up Baldur's Gate 3, which I have not finished yet. But MFer, and pardon my vulgarity.
How dare you?
There's another patch coming. There's another patch, and I knew this patch was coming, but I thought it was just the mod support patch. And I booted up the game, got in, and I was like, let me just double check and make sure there's not a lot of narrative stuff coming in that next patch, which is coming in September. And then I looked it up, and it's like a bunch of stuff that's still coming in the narrative part in Act 3 still, which is where I am. And I was like, well, wait for this patch, and I'll finish it up.
Congratulations on never finishing that game, because there will always be a new patch.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff didn't specifically pertain to me, but some of it did when I was going through the patch notes, and was like, I'm like doing this quest, there's more dialogue, they fix some stuff. Patch 7.
Hey, you're never going to get a second chance to finish that game for the first time.
That's true. I still will do my Dark Urge playthrough, which is one of the things that they actually did add another ending to, I think, in patch 7. So
Wait,
that's
really? God, that's crazy. They're still straight up adding endings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like still some pretty or at least new cinematics, let's say, like new content to some of the endings. But yeah, I want to finish that game. I still love that game.
Sounds like you never will.
But I will. And then I'm very curious to see what the mod support brings. Like, maybe at some point there is a new D&D proper system rolling out, and I'm wondering, by the time I finish this, will somebody mod in support for some of the new stuff coming in the next iteration of proper D&D into this game to update some of the classes, or is that too big an ask?
Someone
I don't
will.
know. Maybe someone. I don't know if the core can be updated that heavily. When are they going to get Herringons in Baldur's Gate? All right. I think that's going to do it for our game plan for this week. We're going to take another break here. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about some news. So stick around, and we'll be right back. We are back, and of course, it is time for the news, and of course, that means coming back from our break, we need a check-in with the Switch successor, unnamed Switch successor. Brad Shoemaker's in the field. Brad, what's the news with what we're calling the Switch 2?
Yeah, so I'm in the field listening to a gamesindustry.biz podcast.
That makes you our official Switch Deuce correspondent.
Yeah, the slow trickle of details about what's going on with this thing continues. This is barely even a detail, because you could have kind of inferred this from things Nintendo has said previously, but I guess hearing it confirmed is nice. Nintendo is telling third-party developers not to expect that thing to ship in this fiscal year, which ends the end of March next year. So,
yeah, I think you have even mentioned that before on here, right? That's when they said it would be announced or talked about.
Well, yeah, so they weren't talking about shipping then. They said it would be announced within the next fiscal year.
Right.
By that time, but you could infer from them saying that probably means announced but not released.
So you would assume that you would assume that there is hardware in people's hands at this point, right? Like locked
absolutely.
to a desk somewhere with a padlock.
Absolutely. People have been working on games for some time at this point, but until this detail trickled out, you could have maybe hoped that they would both announce it and still get it out by the end of March.
Yeah.
Right.
Because the first Switch was a March release, so that could have been the same, but apparently not.
I mean, it could be April. It doesn't necessarily have to be that far off. At this point, I imagine they just want to make sure they have everything in a row before they really start going hard on this thing.
Yeah, Chris String from the Games Industry podcast, who dropped this detail, says a bunch of people I spoke to hope it's out in April or May, still early next year, not late.
Okay.
So,
Brad,
could be late spring, early summer.
What do you think?
But then if it's already slipped, what's a couple more months,
What do you think? When do you think we get it? If we're going for this April date, when do you think we get a game announcement?
Game announcement, or just like system announcement? Just like the whole kit and caboodle. Here's what it's called. Here's what it looks like. I
mean, I assume you're gonna get them both at the same time, right? But I was thinking more a game, because I guess what my real question is: have we already seen a game that'll be on this thing, and is it that next Zelda game?
Not unless it's a cross-gen game. I mean, not unless it's something that runs on current Switch and. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, are we gonna get like boosted games?
Well, I mean, the rumor was they were working on a like next gen kind of gussying up of Breath of the Wild, for that matter. That was like one of the big tech demos they were showing, remember, with better frame rate and faster load times and all that stuff.
Impossible.
So we could have seen a Switch 2 game 7 years ago.
Do you think we get anything this year in terms of actual official news from Nintendo?
Maybe, but if the ship date is pushing later into next year, I could see them waiting until next year to even announce it.
I could see it as well.
Yeah,
because I feel like I remember the promotional cycle from announced to release for the Switch was pretty short, like 6 months or something.
Nintendo isn't at Gamescom, or
I saw the tweet from Keeley about the stuff he so far is announcing for opening night live, his thing that he does, and I think every single thing he listed was on his Summer Games presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I have seen some stuff going around from him that there will be new games announced there.
Yeah.
But that could mean a million things.
And look, I don't imagine it's going to be Nintendo new console level announced there. No.
They absolutely will do their own thing.
Yeah.
Look, Keeley has been announcing a lot of new games throughout the 2 big events he's had so far.
Yeah.
So,
and I'll say this year's Summer Games was pretty solid in terms of new stuff that they had there. It was just very funny seeing him get out there and be like, and here's what's coming for opening night live at Gamescom, and it's every single game he had at Summer Games Fest.
Look, there's only so many games people can make at a time. So that's kind of a little bit more confirmation there that we will not see a Switch before spring.
Probably
spring,
not.
January, February,
Probably
March.
not.
Unlikely.
Unless they decide to tease something this year, but I'm not holding my breath.
All right, let's move on to a bit of silver lining, maybe news. I'm not necessarily going to call it good news, but it's it's
consolation. Considering the state of things, it's definitely positive.
Positive. Brad, what's going on with Tango? We talked, I guess, set people up for what happened to Tango.
Yeah, Tango Gameworks got shut down some weeks ago in a very high profile studio closure. Tango Gameworks, makers of Hi-Fi Rush and Evil Within.
Arguably one of Microsoft's better offerings in Hi-Fi Rush. When it was
delightful game.
Definitely one of the most interesting things that they've done in years, I would say. And then they shut them down. That was Shinji Mikami's studio originally, although he had moved on some time ago. Anyway, they're getting unshut down by Krafton, of all companies.
Now, refresh the audience's memory on Krafton.
I had to look it up this morning because I know who they're associated with, but I couldn't remember how they came about. And in fact, they basically came out of PUBG, but it was they were like a parent company that was formed above Bluehole, who made PUBG after PUBG blew up and became the biggest thing ever. So, they're an umbrella corporation, I guess. But they only came about after the fact, which is a strange situation. Anyway.
And they're the Callisto Protocol publishers.
Yeah, they published Callisto Protocol. Striking Distance, the studio that made that, was formed under their umbrella. They've got a fair number of studios now, I think. Although I haven't heard of most of them. Anyway, Tango Gameworks is now one of their studios because they're buying them. And taking possession of the Hi-Fi Rush IP, but not any of the other stuff that Tango made from the looks of things.
So, I mean, look, that's Hi-Fi Rush. I think is a could be a franchise game, right? That's one that I really enjoyed. Want to develop on that and take that, and the team that developed it obviously very talented because I think that game did stand out in a crowd. Yeah,
that game's pretty awesome. John Johannes, I think he was the director of that game and also the creative director at the studio now. He said, "We're back, baby," when this news came out a couple days ago. So he at least seems stoked about it. I mean, I'm sure they're all stoked to continue having their jobs.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be more ideal if they had possession of all the IP they've worked on over the course of their lifespan prior to this, but I think getting that back and just having that team mostly back intact and being able to make new stuff, I mean, that's probably the happiest ending any of these studios have gotten so far out of all this terrible wave we've been going through.
Yeah, the press release says Krafton intends to collaborate with Xbox and ZeniMax to ensure smooth transition, et cetera, allowing the talented team to continue developing the Hi-Fi Rush IP and explore future projects.
That's great.
So that's about as positive and open-ended as it could be.
Yeah, I have my questions about Krafton as I do any of these other weird short shell corporations that run game studios nowadays, but this has to be a better outcome than anyone was foreseeing here. And I'm actually really curious to hear how this came about if we ever find out.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like the last parent company I would have matched up with them if I had even thought they had a chance of getting bought, which I didn't.
And, obviously Microsoft is the one who closed down the studio in the first place, but you don't see a lot of holders of IP letting go of IP.
Yeah, not a company of that. Obviously, Microsoft did not need the money that this sale brought them. So typically, yes, they'd rather just sit on IP that they have no intention of ever using.
Especially the one that garnered acclaim like Hi-Fi Rush, which is, arguably the thing I'm more interested in than Ghostwire Tokyo or something that maybe didn't perform as well.
Frankly, with the public relations drubbing they took over closing the studio down, I wonder if that was some motivation for them to be hey, maybe we can kind of shed a little bit of this criticism if we find a new home for them rather than just letting them all dissolve.
Maybe. Best of luck to the folks at Tango. and like I said, seems like a talented team to put together some.
And one that was headed in a very interesting and, unusual direction for them when that game came out. So I'm curious to see what that, basically Johannes will get to actually start working on the vision that I imagine he was laying down as the newly appointed creative director right before they shut the studio down.
Right.
I do wonder what happens with things like Ghostwire Tokyo, if those are just dead in the water for a while. Or
I'd
stick another
say
studio
dead
on it.
probably forever.
I think Evil Within is a thing I could see them reviving somewhere
Maybe.
down the road with a new studio. I don't think Ghostwire Tokyo hit hard enough for anyone to really demand more of that.
Yeah, that one is done. I could maybe see Evil Within, like it had its fans, let's say.
Yeah.
Like it didn't set the world on fire, but some people definitely like Evil Within quite a bit.
The second one was not a great game, but it was way more interesting, and I felt like if they had kept going down that path, they might have gotten somewhere pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Somehow Bloober Team is going to make the next Evil Within.
No, don't speak that into existence, Vinny. What are you doing?
I'm just saying, it's just somehow some confluence of events will happen. They'll get picked up or something will happen.
Don't tell me that they are an anchor studio in our reality and that there's a Bloober Team in every fucking reality and that they eventually do all horror remakes in all realities.
So yeah. That's Tango getting picked up by Krafton. The PUBG Callisto Studio. The PUBG split is still a weird thing. I'm not sure exactly how that all works
ask me anything about where PUBG is at these days. I got nothing for you.
Brad, does Will still play PUBG? Do you know? Is
he, not really. He switched to stream. Like Fortnite is his streaming game of choice now.
Okay.
If that tells you anything.
Fortnite here is a very popular game.
Yeah, I think PUBG is still just fine in terms of activity.
I mean, look, we're all playing Tarkov, so what real gamers play.
Man, I bought Tarkov like a year ago. I've not been brave enough to go in yet.
All right. So from Tango being shut down to being then maybe transitioned or sold or partnered up now with Krafton to actual shutdown in GameInformer.
Yep.
What? Okay. We probably all knew the days of GameInformer were numbered in some respect. It still stings to see it kind of shut down, but really, what do you do? The way this has gone down seems pretty vile.
Unceremonious.
Yeah. So Brad, why don't you kind of explain what's going on here?
I think that kind of covered it. Really, they shut down GameInformer like out of nowhere. I mean, maybe not out of nowhere in the sense that I'm, like you said, and definitely people working there and around it kind of expected something like this. Eventually, it's like every game magazine has gone to the great newsstand in the sky eventually.
In the U.S. specifically, yes. In North America in particular.
Yes. I think it was just like how abruptly it happened and how uncaringly they seemed to shut it down. Well, the big one to me, like, it's one thing to say, okay, the magazine is ceasing circulation. We're going to do refunds for subscriptions, etc. Mm-hmm. It was the part where they pulled the entire website down.
That's the thing where, well, boy, how many years has that magazine been in publication?
33 says this.
1991
right? Was the first issue.
And so you just turn off access to all of that content by disabling the website, I think is a really garbage thing to do.
And to be clear, I don't think the website had all the magazine content necessarily, but like the web content, even just alone, they had been making over the last, 2 decades is astronomical.
Yeah, like there was a very active website. Like I would read news stories on GameInformer.com regularly, like preparing for this podcast and so forth,
Yeah.
And also, I mean, a lot of this is speaking as somebody who has done a lot of work on websites and a lot of that work having vanished slowly over time. But man, it really sucks to have something you poured years of your life into slowly erode, let alone just be pulled out from under you all at once like this.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how the people who actually did the work to make that website go feel not being able to refer to any of that work anymore,
Like,
it's really, I think it seems so cold-hearted.
Well, it's not just cold-hearted, it's actively disrespectful, because what you're basically saying is it's not even worth keeping the lights on this thing on for like 30 days so people can archive their stuff, get their their resumes and their portfolios together, do whatever they need to do. It's literally just like, nah, fuck it, button press, done. Like that is like you're doing that in a genuinely mean-spirited way if that's what you're doing.
It feels petty or spiteful almost.
Like all these things, I'm sure it's some spreadsheet and counting of beans and being like, well, if we announce it, we're going to get a bunch of traffic to the site of people scraping it and pulling it down, and we'll have to pay for that. Just might as well just turn it off or put a flat page on there, which is what is on there. It's basically like, thanks for your time.
You mean that goodbye message, which does not appear to have been written by anyone on the actual staff?
Yeah, that's worth mentioning as well. Like, nobody on the staff wrote this farewell message. There's a lot of speculation this message was written by AI, which I don't think we can say for sure, but it is extremely generic sounding.
I mean, not particularly well edited.
But yes, for them to not even get to say goodbye on their own terms is just pretty shitty.
Well, and then you saw what happened with the Twitter account, where someone who was still on staff still had access to it, or who had been on staff, and they wrote a real goodbye message on there, and then they shut the fucking Twitter account down.
Yep.
Like, this is just shitty. That's all it is. It's just shitty.
It's shitty, and it reeks of like I said, just having no heart for the thing. And, you know, like,
and I'm not going to say GameStop ever really fully understood what they had in GameInformer, but there was definitely a time when they treated it like it was one of their marquee products. It was a thing that was like worth touting as a part of the GameStop brand, and it just seems like whoever is in charge over there now has no real reverence or no real understanding of what they had.
Like I'm not here to say that like somebody was going to be able to turn around GameInformer, or that magazines were going to come back, or even online periodicals could make it. But like, yeah, there are a million different ways you could do this and ease this kind of, for the people that care about it and the people that are probably listening to this podcast came up with this just being a thing, right? Just being a thing in their life. It's really I don't know, it feels shameful. It just makes you angry. Yeah. And I think, Brad, like you mentioned too, and then as people who have spent their lives and their careers putting content online, to think like, you just turn that off and that's just gone.
I mean, it's not shameful though, because the thing is, and Vinny, you and Brad, you guys were firsthand, witnesses to this. The people who make decisions like this at publications like this do not feel shame. It is impossible for them to feel it.
And again, I don't think they even care. It's just it's a financial thing. So that being said, there are places and people and movements to try and archive what was on GameInformer. I think Ben Hansen of MinMax is trying to take some of that lead in making sure that you can find some of that stuff, or it is not gone to the digital gods or sacrificed to the digital gods in some form or another. But man, like GameInformer, I was never a big GameInformer. It was a reader, the physical thing. It was always a thing that was offered to me when I went to GameStop. And, like, hey, you want to? Like, no, I'm okay. But I respected that it had been around for so long, and it was a figure in this industry while I was participating in this industry.
And just think of all the names in games media, or even just people that were in games media that have now moved into other aspects of gaming that just happen to come through that particular magazine. Oh, yeah. It's a pretty long roster of people.
Yep.
And they always got to see the games earlier than we did, because they were they were going to print, and they got
the last magazine, man.
They were the last fucking magazine that got to see print lead review code and stuff.
I was more of a Nintendo Power person, or mostly a Nintendo Power.
You like that state-run media.
I like the state-run media. I like my information to be as pumped up and gussied up as possible. Nintendo Power Kid, and more of a next-gen.
Well, hang on, you're cannibalizing that email we talked about.
Oh, okay. We have some game magazines. Yeah,
why don't we just read it now since we're on the subject?
Tom from Queens, New York.
Shout out to Queens.
It threw me for a loop because I don't think of Queens as a town. So when you say Queens, New York, it's... Anyway.
That's how I always self-identify, because I didn't want to tell people where I lived exactly, So just say, I live in Queens!
Yes. With GameInformer's unfortunate end, it's made me reflect on the video game magazines of the 90s and 2000s. I only ever borrowed Nintendo Power from my neighbor until I subscribed to PSM once I got a PlayStation. But I have huge blind spots for other general magazines like GameInformer, GamePro, and EGM. My reasoning at the time being I only had one system, so everything else was just noise. Looking back now, I feel like I missed out on something larger in a societal sense by not at least checking in on those other magazines. I'm beyond excited for the work the Video Game History Foundation are doing to fill in some of those blanks. Do you have any blind spots of that era, or were you a bit more open-minded and kept up with multiple sources? Okay.
Yeah.
Then you continue.
Yes.
Well,
Continue on.
So I Next Gen was the one I subscribed to for a while. They had amazing paper stock.
Dude, that the covers, I've never seen a magazine before or since that had the thickness of cover paper stock.
You could stop a bullet with at least 2 issues of Next Gen. And then PC Gamer was the other one that I subscribed to for a long time. A lot of issues of PC Gamer.
Yes. I devoured magazines as a kid. I think Nintendo Power was the only one I ever had like a mail subscription to, though. I got the first 5 straight years of Nintendo Power. Stopped right around issue 50. But yeah, like GamePro, EGM, it was all like newsstand buys for me. It would just be like, I want a magazine.
Right. This cover's great. Right?
Yes.
Or the disc that is packed in.
Yes. So that was later. Yes. Like early on, it was a lot of GamePro and then a lot of EGM.
GamePro was like newsprint, right? Like that was like, I remember.
They were
it was regular magazine.
It was
regular glossy stock.
Okay, I had a GamePro subscription for a while. I got it. I think I got GamePro as one of those, like, you go around, you're in school and like you're selling magazine subscriptions kind of things. I think I got GamePro through that for a year, and GamePro was always a little goofier, I think, than some of the other ones, but you know, they had good photo spreads, which was really all you were really looking for in one of those magazines, like good layouts and lots of screenshots, and that's really all you're after. Maybe you don't actually care what Sushi X has to say this month, but that's fine.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I knew in like grade school had GamePro, so I saw a lot of it that way, and like this was just my personal sense, but there was a feeling that you would sort of like graduate into something like EGM a little bit from GamePro.
Yeah,
like once EGM started getting big, like that was kind of my main console magazine of choice.
Same.
And then into the 90s, if you really wanted to be super edgy, you went to GameFan.
Right.
I never did.
I forgot about GameFan.
Do a whole episode about GameFan, diehard GameFan. Or you should, if you weren't there, it's less meaningful, but you could just Google history of GameFan, because I think there's like 3 different oral histories of GameFan out there about the sordid goings on at that magazine.
I don't think I ever even saw an issue of this.
Oh, dude. GameFan?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was out there.
GameFan was like the magazine in the 90s specifically for people who cared about imports, who wanted to see nice big photo spreads of games that had not come out in the US.
I see. I did not. That was not me. Okay.
Yeah, among other things. But GameFan is a whole rabbit hole into itself. After we got a computer, I would get PC Gamer pretty regularly for the disc.
Coconut Monkey. Coconut Monkey's gonna what's it, the Veed? Who is, I can't remember the staff there. Gary Whitta was PC Gamer as well, right?
Yes, I believe that's right.
So I never subscribed to any of the PC mags. I did have Nintendo Power. I think I even had a subscription longer than you did, Brad. It was like well into the Super Nintendo era. I know that. I had EGM, I had GamePro, and then I just kind of stopped subscribing to gaming magazines after that. Like I just didn't get anything. I wasn't playing PC games regularly until I started working at GameSpot. So that was like just not a thing I ever did very much with. But I do listen, I completely understand why the market can no longer support real world magazines around here. No one consumes them anymore. But I do just pine for that era of anticipation when you would get the new issue and there would just be something, for your preteen mind kind of mind blowing in there for the latest game that you've been waiting months for. Like there is just something about that I do kind of miss a bit.
There was a mystique to it that you can't quite replicate on the internet because the information is so immediate and so ubiquitous now.
Yeah.
Like I still remember my next door neighbor getting the issue of Nintendo Power in that they had their first Super Famicom spread. It was just like, hey, it's out in Japan. Look at this thing. And I was like falling out of my fucking chair when I saw that. I was like,
was that the one with Super R-Type in it?
Yeah.
I don't remember what games. They definitely would have shown Super Mario World or Super Mario Brothers 4 or whatever they called it there. But it was my first look at the actual console, like the unit, and that little 4-color like rainbow logo that looked so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And just like it felt like secret information coming from you know what I mean? Like somebody broke into a vault and smuggled this out and mailed it out to us.
Totally.
Yes.
And look at this thing. I can't believe this exists.
We are seeing the future before it happens.
And because there was so little of it also, that was why it was so meaningful, because it was like 3 tiny photos in the corner of a magazine page, and that was all you had for 3 months.
Yep.
Yeah, magazines were a good time. On the real quick on the subject of like, did you read magazines about stuff you didn't have access to?
Mm-hmm.
I was a pretty big video games and computer entertainment reader in the late 80s, early 90s, which the Andy Eddy classic.
Yeah.
Which, like, to be frank, I very much thought of and still do as kind of like the thinking person's video game magazine of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was pretty intelligent, pretty professional. But they did both. They did consoles and computer games, which I had zero access to at that time. So it was like, that was a weird moment of looking at what early VGA graphics looked like in like adventure games and going like, what the fuck is going on the computer? like the 16-bit consoles look nothing like this. Like
Wild fucking West over there.
How can you even have graphics this good on a fucking computer? Anyway, so like that was an interesting, just like, you know, I looked at computer games for years in magazines before I ever had access to playing them.
I don't think I did that one. Oh, man. There must have been like 8 gaming magazines on a newsstand, probably by the mid to late 90s, right?
Well, in North America, because in Europe there were 3 gaming magazines per person in all of Europe.
Yeah, and in the US it was way more than that by the late 90s, because that's when all the official magazines also started popping up, and unofficial magazines. So there were like 2 or 3 magazines per console at that time, and like. Ziff Davis was launching all those spin-offs, like they launched EGM2, which didn't that turn into Gamer? I can't remember.
I think that's right.
God, there were so many. Like Ziff had like fucking 6 magazines at one point, or at least, I think. Like there were a lot of video game magazines.
Trying to look up, I couldn't find it. I was trying to look up the PC Gamer review of Doom 3, which I think they gave like a near perfect score to. I
think they might have had the first review, if I remember correctly.
And I remember being like, I gotta get this. Doom 3 is gonna be it's like a technological. So
you weren't at GameSpot yet, right?
No,
okay.
not at that point. Because remember when Greg got that game in, he was like,
yes.
I don't know about this.
I don't know. Like my experience of Doom 3 was, well, multiple things. I got sent to it was like a G4, it was like an award show or something. Like they had like first playable of Doom 3 at some weird event that
it was in LA, right?
I think it was in LA. I can't remember. You could go find this right up on GameSpot still, but like it was some kind of like award show or public event or something that just happened to have Doom 3 at it for the first time.
Okay.
So I had to like go to that thing and play the game, and then literally like sat down on the floor outside of the demo room with a laptop and wrote it up and posted it to the website immediately. Because it was like, fucking, we've got first hands on a Doom 3. This has to go up immediately right now.
Mm-hmm. What'd you think of it when you saw it?
I have to refer to that write-up. I don't really remember.
It's not on the internet anymore. They took it down.
Yeah, but then the story about the Doom 3 reviewable was that somehow somebody got a hold of copies in LA.
Okay.
It might have been Activision had them. It might have been like the publisher had them, but they were not, they were going to, it was going to take like overnight to ship it out or whatever.
Yeah.
Kevin Van Ord got put on a plane down to LA to cab to whatever office, get the review copy of Doom 3, and then go right back to the airport and get back on a plane and fly back up that night.
Oh my God.
So that we could get it like the night before.
Wait, but was it Kevin?
I'm pretty sure. Maybe I could be wrong.
I think Kevin came later.
Or maybe it was Adam?
It was Adam.
Yes,
it was totally Adam. I remember that.
Okay, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is all inside baseball.
Because Adam was an intern we had at that time.
Make sure we're giving credit to the right person for going through all that bullshit. But then, if I remember correctly, they got back with whoever it was. Got back with the game. Greg took it and played through the entire thing overnight.
Yeah, he just stayed up all night in his office and played it, and the next morning he was just like, "It's okay."
Literally, pulled an all-nighter to play through the entire game and then write the review the next day.
What GameSpot 8.5 out of 10.
Yes.
Yeah. PC Gamer.
Wait, hang on. Can I quote the deck of
Oh, please go ahead.
The deck of the Doom 3 review. I'm fudging or paraphrasing a little bit, but it starts something along the lines of while not as impressive as the technology that underpins it, Doom 3 is still a something all things considered.
While not as remarkable as the technology that fuels it, the game itself is put together well enough to make Doom 3 legitimately great all things considered.
All right. Reasonably. I had the sentence structure at least.
I always love that bit we would have to do sometimes when we knew people were going to get really mad and be like, we need to say it's great in the review so they understand that like we are still praising this thing. It's not a pan.
Kind of like I just want to reiterate how much we fucking had to care or did care about the text of reviews back then.
Yep.
That I was able to like paraphrase the deck just now of a review that ran, I think, what are we talking, like
20 years.
A couple weeks shy of 20 years ago.
Yes.
What was the date on that?
I thought that game did come out in August, actually, but I could be wrong.
August 2020. Actually, in North America, August 3rd.
Oh, so we're just past 20 years then.
So really, the 20th anniversary was this month.
In the EU, August 13th. So basically, basically 20 years. That PC Gamer, I think I scroll back down. I think it was 94% they gave that game, which made me almost cry when I remember opening that up and reading it and being like, "This is gonna be the best game ever made."
What did you think when you played it?
And then what were your thoughts?
I think I agreed with everybody that game. Why could you have to put your flashlight away? I'm sorry to be cliche and be like be an internet troll, but I think I also felt like, man, why do you put also a lot of monster closets, but like, I'll tell you what I thought initially that still stands in my mind: interactable computer screens with the mouse. That blew me away.
Interactive computer screens and also like fully diegetic power-ups were a big deal to me. Like the armor and the health kits and stuff were just in the environment and affected by all the same lighting and everything as everything else.
And moving textures, like the slimy wet stuff would move on the things. Very cool.
Some amazing tech in that game.
Curved hallways.
Yep.
Yes.
Anyway,
magazines.
GameInformer.
Yes, magazines were a big deal. The last thing I wanted to say real fast about video games and computer entertainment, meeting Andy Eddy was like an early moment for me, getting into the games press, feeling like I had made it. It's just like, holy shit, I was in grade school reading this guy's magazine, seeing his picture on the masthead. Now I am shaking his hand. This is amazing.
They say never meet your heroes, but Andy Eddy, one of the true sweethearts of gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yes, RIP to GameInformer. That whole shutdown sucked ass.
Everyone there deserved better.
And hopefully that information is archived somewhere, because
the work is being done, is what what I've been told.
All right, we got one more piece of news here before we move on with the show, and that is about Avowed.
Yeah, so super quick. It got delayed to next year. If you're
did that have
tracking.
A month?
No, it looks like November 12th had leaked.
Okay.
Or I'm not quite sure how that got out there. It looks like they briefly ran a blog post that they pulled quickly that had said November 12th.
Gotcha. Okay.
They had been saying this year, though. They had been saying Avowed was a this year game. Now February 18th, 2025. So not a huge delay, a few months, but if you're tracking the already somewhat thin release schedule in the last 3 months of the year, there is one less major game coming out now.
Yeah, they've got this infographic on their post here with. It's still weird for me to see Xbox and then see World of Warcraft logo on there, but a lot of these games I had forgotten about. Aura, I had forgotten about that. Aura History Untold.
That 4X game.
What's Towerborn?
What is Towerborn?
What is Towerborn? That's got a 2024 TBA.
You cannot be told what Towerborn is. You have to be shown.
I'm trying to look what else is 2024 here. Indiana Jones, still TBA. Flight Sim, 2024. Black Ops.
I forgot they hadn't put a date on Indiana Jones yet.
Yeah, I had forgotten that too. Anyway, that's all in there. Like, hey, this is all happening. Don't forget about it. And then, next year, obviously, Fable, and now Avowed.
Yes, and new Doom.
Doom the Dark Ages. All right. I think that's going to do it for the news. Brad, were there any other emails you wanted to pick up?
Yeah, let's see. That magazine one was a big one, but let me see here.
We've got an email address. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Yeah, write us. What were your favorite magazines?
Mm-hmm.
Or you could ask what John from Greece asked. Well, no, you can't, because I guess we're going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Bar of soap or liquid soap?
Bar of soap.
Bar of soap.
Yes,
Bar of
I
soap.
have. We were on some liquid. In fact, we were on some foaming hand soap for a long time.
Okay.
around
Oh,
here.
so do you before we get too deep into it, would you say liquid and bar of soap for shower and for
I use liquid
So-
soap for hand soap.
So we were on
Okay.
like liquid or foaming for hand, and then like body wash in the shower. But we have gone 1,000% back in the bar direction.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just fucking bars of soap all over the place.
All right.
now,
Okay.
Here.
Bar soap for you in the shower, Alex. Liquid for the hands.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a bar soap for both. And when I do the thing when the bar runs out in the shower, since I've got a family of 4 here, I just reach over and grab that bar from the sink and then put it back when I'm done. And I'm gonna let somebody else go get a new bar for the shower.
Nobody needs to know.
Nobody needs to know. It's all soap, man, and I'm too lazy to go. I don't remember by the time I'm done to put a new bar back in the shower.
Yeah.
But yeah, bar soaps.
Yeah.
They're good.
Only way to live.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoy rubbing that bar all over my.
You
Dirty,
don't have to continue to
dirty,
illustrate this
dirty,
for everyone. You really
dirty
don't have to keep
self.
painting this vivid picture of what's going on there for the people at home.
My wife uses bar soap for her hair. She has like a like a conditioner bar soap. Like
I've
for-
seen that
for hair.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I had hair, I'd do it. But yeah, it's I have like a bar soap for my beard. So yeah, bar soap's all the way down.
Yep.
I'm perfectly smooth, so I don't have to do any of that.
Any other emails? Any other personal hygiene people want to know about?
Yeah.
How I'm staying clean?
I'll let people write in about that one.
All right.
Okay, great.
Travis and Fargo.
Hi, Travis.
What promotional movie fast food tie-in from your childhood has most shaped who you are today?
I don't know how to even address that.
I do. I
okay.
do.
Why
Which
don't
is
you
to
start?
say,
All right.
which is to say, if all those stories about the lead content of the paint on the promotional glasses in the 80s is to be believed,
Uh-huh.
You're in trouble.
I'm going to say it is by definition it is those things.
Yeah, okay, that is pretty life-altering. You're right.
If we were all consuming lead in the way that we may have been,
Well,
So-
hopefully you weren't. I guess it would come off on your fingers, right? Because it'd be on the outside of the glass. You're talking about the ones you got from like McDonald's or like the gas
Yeah.
station.
Yeah.
yeah, the word in the last few years is that a lot of those glasses with
Ugh.
stuff, characters painted on them and stuff from that era, there was lead in that paint.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
The one thing I will say is that I don't think I really had much of the glassware. What we had were a lot of those like collector plastic cups, like for like the Batman movies you would get at like McDonald's or Burger King or whatever the hell. I had a bunch of those. I don't know why. They weren't even really that great. It was, but I could collect them all, so I had to, because
You don't have to tell me.
I have no willpower. But the one thing I do remember very vividly for some fucking reason, and we talked about this when we did the watchcast for it, was the Dick Tracy like McDonald's game thing they had going on where you would like peel the thing off the cup and there was like game pieces and stuff. I don't remember why, but I became obsessed with trying to win something good in those, and I kept wanting to go McDonald's to play this stupid fucking Dick Tracy game. And I don't think I ever won more than a Big Mac or something along those lines, but that was, about as good of a win as the average person would get on those, I guess.
I got a lot of Happy Meal toys. I still have them. Got the Tiny Toons
You
on the
still
little
have
cars.
them?
Oh yeah. I know. I've got problems. Okay. Tiny Toons
I had
and
them
their
for a
little
long
cars and like the little like wind-uppy things and
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff. The one I kind of weirdly remember wanting, like the one that I just got. The one I kind of remember wanting, I don't know why, but it was the Land Before Time plastic puppets from Pizza Hut. Do you guys remember the movie Land Before Time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they had like these vinyl puppets at like Pizza Hut, and my family just did not go to Pizza Hut a lot. And I wound up with a Petrie one, and I always wanted the rest of them. And I think it was Pizza Hut. I'm pretty sure it was.
I have good news for you.
Yeah.
You can have what appears to be all of them. For not all that much money.
No, I'm sure they if you want to talk about probably some horrible chemical in those things, don't put those on your hand and then lick your fingers. It's probably, I think I still have Petri. I don't know. But that's like one I was after.
$75, $85 for the entire set.
That's too much money.
On eBay.
How much are there? 4 of them? 5 of them?
1, 2, 6
I don't even like The Land Before
total.
Time. I don't even like, there's no emotional connect there. I always thought that was a very, there's something about, I should watch it again, but there's something saccharine in my memory about Land Before Time.
It's incredibly saccharine.
Yeah, that seems like maybe it's adjacent to like a religious telling of dinosaurs. There's something a little
I don't
like,
think it's that bad.
It's not VeggieTales, the dinosaurs.
No, it's just edgeless for the most part, if I remember correctly. It's like, it's been sanded off and baby proofed.
Okay, yeah, like I don't really have an affection, but I think when I was growing up as a kid, I always was fascinated by puppets, and like puppeteering, and I think I just liked the puppets. They had in our library, one of the bigger library branches that was near me, not my local one, but a bigger one. They had puppets you could borrow. I always thought that was super cool.
And do what?
Like, like play with them while you're in the libray as a kid. Like you go into like the kids area, and they just have like puppets in these little bags and just play with them. And I like puppets. I made my friends when I was a kid. Nobody wants to hang out with me. I will.
All the cool kids at the library, we're out here checking out our fucking Hardy Boys books and whatnot, and you're over there playing with the fucking puppets. Yeah, don't go hang out with the puppet kid, all right?
Thank you for hanging out with me. You're welcome, Vinny. You're the coolest kid.
Yeah, just don't go over there.
Yeah, it's the power of imagination.
Yep. Speaking of ill-advised eBay purchases of promotional trinkets, have you guys seen these Nintendo controller keychains?
No.
Oh man, I am resisting hard.
Or is somebody drilling through?
No, Nintendo's making them.
Oh, okay.
But they're only, I can't remember, they're only available in Japan. They only come out of like 3 gacha machines.
Oh boy.
And you might have to be some kind of fan club type member to even get to buy them. I can't remember exactly. At any rate, they are quite expensive on eBay, but they have made keychains. They've basically made keychains out of like parts of each controller up through the GameCube.
Oh, I have seen these.
They may not stop there. I wouldn't be surprised if they do like Wii. Let's see, Wii U, maybe even Switch, but it's literally, it'll be like the D-pad or just the 4 buttons from the Super Famicom controller, for example. Or just the C-stick from the GameCube controller, or just start and select on the NES controller. You can find pictures.
I found a picture of it, so it's not like it's ripped out. It is molded.
No, it's molded.
As a
They've made
square,
molds of like just that part of the controller, so it's very nice and clean. The funny thing, and not that you would ever do this, but the funny thing is that all the parts are certified repair parts.
Oh, like wow, really?
They're all the legitimate parts off the production line of the real controllers.
What are we doing?
So, like, those look like the best little fidget toys I have ever seen, to just sit there and have 4 buttons from the Super NES controller to just sit there and mess with.
I don't know. I'm going to get these and just get replacement parts for my controller.
When you look up the prices on them, you may not want to disassemble them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, maybe not. Man.
Because they're hard to come by and they ship internationally, they are not cheap.
This is what Nintendo says when they're like, "Oh, you want right to repair? Here we go. We're going to take all these.
It's going to cost you, all right?
We're going to sell all these parts in a gotcha machine molded for your keychain.
Good luck.
This probably ties back into 80s, 90s nostalgia and everything we've been talking about, so I feel like it's fair game. Have you had a severe reduction in your keychain from when you were like a teenager?
Oh yeah.
Do you mean usage?
No, not even usage. Just
how
like
often you get keychains?
Like number of things on it.
Have you moved into a minimal keychain? The smaller the keychain, the better for your life. Or do you like carry around? Do you got like a full flashlight on your keychain?
Actually, happen to have them in my pocket here.
Okay.
All I have on my keychain these days is one regular keychain, a small tiny bottle opener, like similar to that, and a little thing that dangles off that has my earplugs in them.
I'm very happy, Brad, that you also have the Gerber shard.
Yes, the Gerber.
I don't have that one, but I have one like it.
Gerber shard became my keychain years ago. It does too many things.
Is yours completely worn off to where the black all came off and it's just silver at this point?
Uh,
Or do you still have any of the paint on it?
the only thing I see on there is etched into the metal. So if there was anything painted on, it's gone.
The Gerber shard, I also have that on my keychain too. The Gerber shard was amazing because you could take it through an airport.
Yes.
And that's how they marketed it. And I used to love it for things like E3 because it has a screwdriver Phillips head attachment on it. I have my keys. My keys got a little too big. They started getting. I have a pen on there now, a little flashlight, and I kind of want to go back to a smaller.
Oh, flashlight! I used to have a flashlight until phones started doing that.
Yeah, the phone is good. The phone is good.
I've had a little 8 gigabyte USB storage, little thumb drive on my keys for
what's on it.
For the better part of 10 years, I've never used it.
Oh, not once?
I've never ever actually had a use for it.
I also have a USB on my drive, and it's so worn down I don't even know what's left on it. And then I also have my YubiKey triple factor device on there. My keys kind of exploded at some point. I need to reduce. I need to turn down my keys.
I mean, look, back in the day, you had those giant fucking jeans we were all wearing that had, massive pockets. You could have enormous fucking keychains, and we were all wearing wallet chains on top of that.
You put your keys on your wallet.
Yeah, just jangling everywhere.
I need a new wallet. What do you guys do for wallets?
My partner bought me a wallet like 10 years ago, and that's the one I still use.
Is it like full on, tuck the money inside?
It's like a normal size wallet.
Normal wallet.
Nothing that crazy.
You feel like I feel like you're a minimal wallet person.
I have the wallet I'm using we've advertised for it on the Bombcast, so they sent one.
Okay.
I cannot remember the brand. It's weird. I'd have to get it and show it to you. It's got a little like spring-loaded release mechanism that pops your cards out.
Ooh.
It holds like 6 cards in this little slot, and you just like pop it, and they kind of pop up.
Okay.
In a way that I have been complimented on in like cash register lines before.
That's cool.
So like, oh, that's cool.
Does it keep do you have cash in your wallet?
Yes, it's only got like a money clip in it.
Okay.
Prove it. Show it to me right now. Let me see your credit card number.
I can go here. Hang on.
No, it's okay.
No. You don't. Okay. All right. I was joking, but all right.
I have one of those small wallets, and it's got like a money clip in it, and the money always gets funky and ripped and like just kind of worn out inside that wallet because I don't use cash that much, but I usually will keep like a 20 or something in there.
The money got funky.
The money got funky. Oh wow, that is very cool. He just popped it. It's a little bigger than I would have thought. Taller.
It's still pretty good. It's still pretty good size.
Still pretty good. Oh yeah, and then a money clip on the inside. Wow, that money is in pristine shape. Okay.
I don't know that I love the money clip part because you have to pull out your entire wad of cash every time you want to do anything with it. But
sure. People are going to ask, Brad. So what is the brand that you have there?
Exter.
What is it?
Exter.
Do you like it?
It's okay.
Okay.
It's a little, like you said, it's a little thicker than I would have.
It's a little taller too than I was imagining in my head.
Yeah, and the money thing is a little bit annoying. And also, for people who care, you can't scan like your Clipper card through it, like your subway bus card.
Yeah, but they can't scan you.
Yeah, that's right.
I years ago, 20 years ago ish, I had a friend who just had a card, like a clip. And just had like a credit card and a cash on it. And I thought that was bananas at the time. And now I feel like that's what I want to live. That's the life I want to live.
I respect that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just fell into using this because I had it already. But yes, I was also in that mode of like, I want the thinnest possible wallet.
Yes.
I want it to like, I want to not even feel the wallet in my pocket.
Though the people who keep like the wallet and phone combo, I think that's too scary for me. The people who like put like I just keep my cards on the back of my phone kind of thing. That's like... That's scary. That's scary.
Diversify your risk.
That's right. Spread it out. Spread out the risk. All right. Is that it for the emails?
Yep.
That's going to do it for our emails. Again, you can email us. We have an email address here. It is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. I think that's going to do it for our return show here. We got some things to talk about before we wrap up this show. One is the Watchcast. You guys had Dan Reichert on to do Commando. That's the person to get for the Commando Watchcast. We are between, what would you call it, Alex?
I think we're in a very unofficial theme right now.
We're in a liminal space between the main themes.
We're sitting in a red room, you might say, between lodges, between worlds, as we try to get away from the Twin Peaks, but not entirely, as we watch some films that feature the cast members of Twin Peaks and also feature Los Angeles and also happen to feature major stewardess characters and punk rock soundtracks, and
So we've got The Return. Oh, sorry. Geez, I cannot stop calling it The Return. The Hidden.
The Hidden.
The Hidden is the one we just recorded. You can find out what's coming up next. Have you announced it yet? I don't think you have, right?
No, we haven't yet. That'll be on next week's show.
And then we'll be moving into our next theme kind of following that. So that's what's going on in the Watchcast front. Like I said, I am now in the garage situated here. I'm going to be doing a stream on Thursday from here, kind of kick the tires a little bit more on stuff here. Kind of need to get situated, figure out how all this is going to work out from the garage. And then Friday we'll be getting together. We still haven't 100% nailed it down. We were maybe tossing around some ideas. It involved us getting together to play some maybe Helldivers. We'll see if we can pull a team together for that. They've got that update going. What's the dungeon one that we were talking about maybe doing?
Dark and Darker, which seems maybe hard, but maybe jump in there. That's 3 players.
Everything worth doing is.
Yes, that's true. And then we'll be kind of getting back in our groove, and we'll have figuring out more stuff following that as we recalibrate back in the coming out of summer, let's say, into the fall as the kids get ready to go back to school. Everything changes. School never changes. You can check out stuff over on our Patreon, whether you're there for Never Been a Better Podcast, whether you're there to get the Watchcast as early as possible, whether you're there for a video Ramblecast where you can see the garage behind me. You can actually view it. I turn on my phone and I shoot it. Whether you're there for Planorama or any of the things that are over on our Patreon, you can find them at patreon.com/Nextlander, where you can find a tier that is right for you. And there is one tier there that gets their names read on this here podcast. I'm going to read those names right now, starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitus Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre Heist 2, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher. Bunny Fiend's annual Patreon bill has come due, and we do appreciate you your continued service here on our Patreon. Jad Rita, Statics, Fantasticasm 89, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Like I said, we appreciate everybody who has supported us. Mysterious benefactors, thank you so much. Everybody who has come over on our Patreon, that is the place if you want to benefit us directly over at patreon.com/Nextlander. Actually, point of order here. We've got we've been notified by the people at Patreon that if you subscribe through the Apple app, I think the fees are going to be going up there because Apple is now charging a surcharge on top there.
The classic 30%.
So if you subscribe to our Patreon and renew through the Apple Store, you'll be charged more. They're going to put that surcharge on top of that. So if you want to look into just going through the website directly, I believe that will be less there. That is news coming down from the people at Patreon. So keep an eye out for that.
It's all going down, man.
If you notice something funky going on, we have not raised our prices over at patreon.com/Nextlander. We got some stuff going on too in terms of thinking about moving and shaking. I'm going to try and get over to Alex's place at some point, see if we could do some in-person stuff. Trying to set up here for some in-person stuff. I'm pretty excited about that. Need to figure out a little bit longer range things. All that's happening. It's all happening here in Nextlander. And also, just a heads up, fall, a lot of video games coming out. Video games coming out.
I think a good number of video games are going to come out.
Good number of video games. Hope you can join us for them. Brad Shoemaker, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex Navarro, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.